When flying over the Himalayas, we saw Mount Everest just before we arrived in Kathmandu, Nepal. The first impression of Nepal was many more vehicles and trash than in Tibet. Tibet is controlled by China, and Nepal has its own government, but has close ties to India. Nepal was freer, but we saw many street people, many huckstering purses, and other woven products. They were not shy to bug us long after we said no. Nima, the guide in Tibet, made a point about the earthquake 2 years ago. He said a few times that Tibet was spared the widespread destruction because of its strong adherence to Buddhism. Nepal is mostly Hindu. Couldn't have been each country is on opposite sides of the Himalayas, could it? Traffic congestion was terrible. We drove a few miles at rush hour and came back the same route a couple of hours later. Going, it took an hour. Coming back was 5 minutes. The river flowing through Kathmandu, the Bagmati, was very polluted. Not only do cremated ashes get dumped, but every other kind of refuse. Kathmandu was a real contrast when compared to Lhasa, Tibet. People were every bit as friendly and helpful as in Tibet. We felt safe at all times. Food was still basically Chinese, with usually a Western breakfast. We enjoyed all the meals, but I started hoping for a burger or a pizza once in a while. We landed in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal and afterwards went on a walking tour to a temple square. There was lots of repair to buildings due to the earthquake. A lot of it was funded by foreign governments like the US, Russia, Germany. One of the things we noticed all over the place was a tangle and mess of electric wires. People could be found lying around in the gutters on benches all over the place in Nepal. Here some wives were studying Hindu teachings while their husbands were at work. Later that day, we took about an hour's bus ride out of Kathmandu to Dhulikhel, which is a mountain resort area. Beautiful terraced farmlands on the way, and the road was terrible.
Even in Kathmandu, you'll see, like, especially the ladies, they're covering their hair and all. And so many people ask, like, is there the Muslims such a big population over here? So these are not Muslims. We are Hindu, but it's all because of the dust. They want to cover their hair. I think that's the charm for the ladies.
We arrived at the Dhulikhel Mountain Resort. Very nice place, and it was doing its own construction. Women helped carry mud for the bricklaying. We hiked about 15 minutes over a hill to get to the cook's house, and he was so proud to show it to us. This was the cook's village. There was a leaf that the guide pressed into his hand and gave a powdery impression. We then walked into the town of Dhulikhel and saw some sights. Many of the shops were about 10 feet wide and 20 feet deep and sold one kind of merchandise. This lady was drying rice in the village square, and the guide gave us face masks to wear because of the dust. I just put mine on for the picture. We then went to a primary school with grades K to 5 and had a really nice visit. This was a private school and had only about 10 kids in a class. After Jody listened to this girl read, the teacher said she was the slowest in the class. Very good. Then our friend Gary showed a little boy how to tie shoes.
Yeah, but he anyhow manages it. That's good.
Some buildings were propped up or condemned because of earthquake damage. We then made our way to the monkey temple, given that name because of all the monkeys running around.
Are you finished, Mark?
Yeah, I am.
I was watching some monkeys running around down below the temple, and soon a couple dogs came up and were watching with me. Even the lions had a hospital in Kathmandu. The next morning we got up early to go to the airport to fly to Mount Everest. These guys were betting on which planes will make it back. The flight to Everest held 32 passengers, all window seats. That's Everest there?
Yes, that's the Everest, the tallest one. Behind it.
Right straight across?
Yes,
Which one is
that's
Everest? That one?
Just behind it, you can figure it out. It's like the tallest over there, like the pyramid shape.
Okay, the one that's back there. I'm going to take another one in. And there's we're coming up to it, aren't we?
Sorry?
The highest point we're coming up to Everest.
Yeah, that's the Everest.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Everest and by the side is also low, so that's also the fourth highest.
See the highest one? Which one is it? I think it's the one coming up right here.
One in the behind is
I think it's
the
that one? I think so.
Yes.
Coming up the Everest. It's that one. Which one is it?
We were allowed to go up in the cockpit and take some pictures, Looked pretty much like from where we were sitting.
Get any pictures, Judy?
Oh, you wait till you have to sit and watch it. Well, I wonder which one this is.
I just hope they're clear, honey.
Later that morning, we went to the Basmati River where they were preparing for a cremation ceremony. The body was prepared for cremation by the river, and shortly after, they carried it to the other side of the bridge where the cremation would take place. Hindus and Buddhists believe in reincarnation, and so part of the ceremony was to help the soul be released and go to the next life. The body was carried around the pyre 3 times before it was put down. The oldest son's head was shaved during the ceremony. The brothers circled the body, shirtless, as part of the ceremony, and then poured water in the mouth to help release the soul. The person in charge of the fire then started small fires around the body. When the fire started, the mourners started to leave, and eventually everybody was gone. At first I thought the boys were taking things for themselves, but when I looked at it, they were just helping find things that might have been discarded. We didn't see it, but most of the remains were supposed to be pushed into the river. There were posts in the river that helped collect the unburned wood. Later, we went to the Tibetan refugee place where the women were weaving traditional Tibetan rugs. The singing bowl maker took this wand around the outside, and the vibrations made the water come out. It also was therapeutic. Between the sound and the vibrations, it felt good.
By using the sound, like there are two ways of using it. Close your eyes and concentrate on the sound.
She's asleep.
He's going to work for us.
You're hired.
He's going home with me.
It's a highly technical job.
He's going home with me.
That's very good.
Years of practice.
Oh yeah.
He's got
As we were getting ready to leave Nepal, they were starting the celebration of lights. It was the celebration of light over darkness, good over evil. Even decorated the dogs. On to Bhutan.